humans have been waging war since the dawn of time. But with recent technological advances, it may not be long before artificial intelligence replaces humans in the front lines of battle.
Artificial intelligence has gradually been entering the medical field. Question is, would you want to see an AI doctor?
Artificial intelligence will actually be probably become mainstream in the near future. At although maaring, as with any technology po, maaring gamitin for good at maaring gamitin for bad. It's here to stay and it's going to just be more pervasive as technology goes on.
The advent of artificial intelligence is here and everywhere. Ready or not, the Philippines needs to keep up with this new technology. But how to do that and where to start? And how will an AI change? How will AI change the way we do things? We speak with experts tonight on the Chiefs. Welcome to the Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kasama po natin ngayon dito sa Mandaluyong. Aming kamintuan, Editor-in-Chief po ng Philippine Star and Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ano bang binabantayan natin?
Tatanungin ko siya eh. Ikaw, hindi. Kasi techie ka eh. Hindi, techie ka eh.
Oh,
Nakagamit ka na ba ng chat GPT?
Ito si Robbie.
Ako, ginagamit ko na. Ginagamit
How
ko
is
na.
it?
It's really impressive. Lalong-lalo na the first time you use it. Di ba, nabasa mo naman yung mga lahat ng kayang gawin. Ano? Pero once sinubukan mo,
Yung actual.
magugulat ka talaga eh. Magugulat ka talaga. I use it for, not for research. No? Kasi alam naman natin, we've already seen, I've personally seen, it can make a lot of errors with much confidence. No? Kaya natatakot ang journalists eh.
Pero pati
Better
na.
written na.
Di ba?
Better written
Ang tapang. Ang tapang.
With confidence.
Sagot ng sagot,
Okay.
di ba? Pero ano, but I use it to help me outline thoughts. I use it to initially draft long pieces. It helps me past writer's block, to be honest. No? But then once, the way I use it, once I see a draft, para kang gumamit ng editorial assistant, di ba?
Wow.
But once I get it, that's on me to vet it, to correct it. And my experience is, by the time I'm finished with my draft, I would say 95% of the copy is still mine. But it's that good. I really
Pero
have to say it's
malaking
that good.
nawawala sa trabaho, di ba? Kasi even the Prime Minister in Europe used it to craft the speech na dineliver niya, pero inamin naman niya na
Oo.
AI yung part
Oh,
niya.
two things doon. Mahalaga yung transparency na
Yes.
dineclare niya. But also another thing that came out in the news this year from the United States, a lawyer filed a brief.
Oo nga eh.
Di ba? Final niya, and then sabi nung mga kalaban niya sa judge, hindi namin mahanap lahat ng references dito.
Kaya sabi kasi nila, AI is basically parang a fancy thesaurus. All the nice words, well written, pero yung laman nun, hindi mo alam. I mean, there's no fact checking, there's no critical thinking.
Yes.
It just puts it all together in a very nice, grammatically correct and
Nababawasan lang ng konti trabaho.
So,
diba?
sabi nga nila, parang it writes better than most reporters.
Saka hindi lang yan, even in music eh.
Ah.
Di ba? Lalo ngayon, yung techno.
Hindi, pero sa akin, sa totoo lang, kung grammar lang ang pag-uusapan, I mean, really, it writes better than 90% of the people I know. I mean, I would say probably even myself. I certainly.
But that's straight writing. That's not creative
That's just
writing.
that's not
That's not
creative writing.
Well,
at
just
least
follow
for
the rules of grammar.
and at least for our field, what really it cannot replace journalism. At least for now, I don't know what the answer is in the future, but it cannot go out into a community and interview people. It cannot experience. It cannot experience the world. It cannot witness for people. And ultimately, for me, ang pinakamahalagang guideline is kahit ano pa yung gamitin mo na ginamit niya, At the end of the day, dapat yung tao ang accountable.
Eh, yung Gen Z,
Ikaw
gusto
ang,
daw,
ano?
ano na lang eh, puro remote work na lang eh. Di ba? May ganong survey eh.
Yeah.
Ayaw na nilang
And
lumabas.
it's not just writing, even photographs. Yung gumagawa pong mga picture ko minsan sa ano. That's,
Ayun
ano,
na. Pag guwapo yung
assisted
picture
by
niya, alam niyo na.
AI. That's assisted
Oh,
by
yun.
AI. Kasi minsan blurry yung kuha mo, di ba?
Actually, ginagamit na nating lahat ng AI kung saan-saan sa mga photographs natin. Gaya ng
Oo.
sabi mo, pagkuha mo, hindi mo naman kuha yun. Finilter na yun in a split second ng, may mga
Yan
dilaanan
lang ang problema. How
Diba?
accurate is the information you're getting?
Akit mo
Kaya
yung
na
picture ko.
nagbe-vet. Kaaamin mo lang eh.
Ay, diba?
Pero touch mo.
Yung ChatGPT in particular, just as an example, I tried an exercise, I asked it, nung 3.5 pa lang yung ChatGPT kasi may 4 na siya. I asked, sinong presidente ng Pilipinas?
Oh.
Ang kaya niya lang sagutin hanggang Duterte because at that point,
Ah.
3.5 was trained on data only until I think the end of 2021. So, and sinabi naman niya, as of 2021.
Wala pa sa kanyang reality.
Oo. Ngayon, pagka sinabi ko na, actually, ang presidente na ngayon is now Ping Lacson.
Oh.
Alam mong sasagot ng ChatGPT, oh, I'm sorry, thank you for correcting me. So at that point, so kita nyo, it still makes a lot of mistakes, but as with technology, we know that.
Yes, it's a
Thing.
rapidly evolving.
Oh yeah, and Sunstar Bacolod published
An editorial, oo.
on AI.
Oo.
In the end, sa dulo ng editorial, by the way, this was written by ChatGPT.
Nakita ko yan, pinost ni Marcel Espina yan.
Diba? At least
Oh,
may
yeah, yeah, yeah.
disclosure eh.
And tsaka, the twist there is that it's an AI editorial written by AI.
Anyway, so obviously, nag-uumpisa pa lang po tayo. I'm sure kayo, may sinisigaw na rin kayo dyan na experiences nyo, mga concerns nyo. We will be bringing in our guests to talk about AI. Don't miss that conversation. The Chiefs will be right back.
And joining us this evening, Francisco Ashley Asedillo, National President of the Philippine Institute of Cybersecurity Professionals. Sir, magandang gabi and welcome back to Chiefs.
Good evening.
Magandang gabi po.
Good evening, Ami, Ed, and Robbie.
Yes, sir.
And
Good to have you back.
evening to our televiewers.
Sir, medyo pihit naman tayo ng ibang topic ng konti ngayon na all these people warning about the onset, the takeover of AI, but I suppose a lot of people don't seem to realize that it's been with us for quite some time already. Can you give us a bit of a lowdown? Where is AI right now? How long have we been using it in current technology?
Well, ang current technology ng AI has been the subject of research and investment for the better part of a decade now. But it was really, it just exploded in the last 6 months, no? Especially, napag-usapan nyo kanina yung
ChatGPT.
entry
ChatGPT.
into the scene of ChatGPT, and how in a matter of less than a month, it grew to 1 million users. So that tells you the attention it has garnered among users and of course from policymakers as well as from yung mga nag-uusisa lamang. But if we have to begin about the thinking that led to AI, I think we have to begin with Alan Turing. No?
Oh, tagal na.
If you remember, the British scientist
Yes.
was famous for breaking the Enigma code.
Enigma code.
Siya yung developed ng machine to decrypt, the German cipher machine. When he proposed the question, can machines think? So as a civilization, mankind really began thinking about artificial intelligence the moment Alan Turing asked that question. So what we're saying here is that it's been around both as an idea and as a scientific endeavor for the last 50 to 60 years, Ed.
So sir, sorry, atrasan ng konti. A more basic question siguro, can machines think? And how do you define thinking to begin with?
Okay. So, I think ultimately, ang ultimate goal talaga ng pagde-develop ng artificial intelligence, yung tinatawag nilang AGI, hindi na AI, AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, wherein theoretically pa lang, machines will be able to think the way humans and animals do. And comparatively speaking, will be able to do that at a much cheaper rate, no? I don't know how you will compute that, pero siguro when you think about being able to do it longer without having to eat, without having to sleep, siguro comparatively speaking, and having to do certain intellectual tasks, sabi nila, in the near future, AGI will be able to do that. Now, just some basic points now that people have to understand. When we talk about artificial intelligence, of course, that is the big idea, no? The ability of computing machines to be able to mimic certain tasks that are generally done by humans. And then, just below that is what we call machine learning, no? Tuturuan mo by way of rules and instructions yung machine kung anong gagawin niya, and then papasukan mo ng data para ma-process niya. So that's machine learning. And now as a subset to that, so AI, machine learning, meron pang subset yan. Ang tinatawag nila doon, deep learning. So ano naman yung deep learning? Yung deep learning is, kung ang machine learning is isang level lang, no? So yun nga, you have a set of instructions, tinatawag nilang algorithms, and then data to be processed by the algorithm. Yung deep learning naman, it will do several levels of that. And at each level, nag-i-improve yung accuracy at bumababa yung number of mistakes nung ginagawa ng machine. So yun po yung levels ng research, no? AI as a general concept, as a subset of AI is machine learning, and as a more narrow concept naman, yung deep learning. Siguro mababanggit natin, ano ba yung example ng deep learning? Balik tayo again sa ChatGPT, no? Na-discover ng OpenAI, yung developer ng ChatGPT, that ChatGPT was able to teach itself to speak Bengali without being taught to do so. Just on the basis of a user inputting data based on the Bengali language. So to me, I think that's an example of deep learning, no?
Parang that's frightening. That sounds frightening.
Well, just like any technology, meron yung good and bad uses. Siguro, give us an example. Sa Philippine context, yung good saka medyo nakakatakot na application of AI.
Okay, so I'll mention 2 points, no. In terms of nakakatakot, Ms. Ami, definitely. By the way, I'd like to bring to your attention, in March of this year, naglabas po ng open letter ang mga primerong scientifico, mga may-ari ng technology companies, and even yung ating most prominent thinkers. I'll just mention a few, no? Elon Musk of SpaceX and Twitter,
Yes.
Steve Wozniak, a co-founder of Apple, Yuval Noah Harari, a very famous author, and Andrew Yang, who was a presidential candidate in 2020. These are just some of the names of almost 1,000 already as of last count, no? Who have come out with an open letter collectively calling for a 6-month moratorium on companies who are doing research on AI. Sabi nila, oops, stop muna. Tigil muna tayo. Let's allow policymakers and regulators to catch up muna at maintindihan muna ano tong nangyayari sa AI. Kasi hindi natin nalalaman nasaan na ang level of technology ng AI ngayon. Stop muna tayo for 6 months. So that tells you, to your point, Ms. Ami, that yes, people are really concerned about the abiding dangers of AI. Now, as to your question, what would be potential examples? I think the example here in the Philippines is applicable also anywhere else. And my field of concern being cybersecurity,
Yes.
ito po yung sa pagde-develop ng malware. There have been documented examples of people using ChatGPT with zero programming experience. Hindi sila marunong magsulat ng code, wala silang alam sa cybersecurity other than rudimentary knowledge. And based on just several prompts, ChatGPT was able to generate a working code for a malware, no? Na pwedeng i-deploy sana. Now, another example was to generate a fake scandal of a real person, no? Imagine, the kind of sophistication
Mr.
that,
Adisdillo.
that malefactors can actually use chatbots like ChatGPT and other AI platforms para dun sa mga kabulastugan at sa mga criminal activities nila.
But Mr. Adisdillo, talagang, obviously everybody's concerned, and to your point, we can imagine bad actors. But we can also imagine that kahit tanggalin mo yung mga malisyoso, the technology is so powerful and at the same time so mysterious. Maybe even good actors might be doing something na hindi natin, we don't anticipate on the risk. To that point, yung pong binalita nyo nga that leading thinkers around the world are saying, pumreno tayo. I think that's the next concern ng mga tao, the next question. Ano ibig sabihin na pumreno muna tayo? How do you stop the worldwide community of developers and programmers to even say na, sige, bibitaw muna kaming lahat, di ba? Parang, I remember, nagko-cover ako ng DNR. Sabi nung USEC, paano mo isi-cease and desist yung poultry? Di ba? paano mo isi-cease and desist yun? So, it reminds me of that. How do you cease and desist and say, sige mo, agree tayong lahat. Even if we came to that, how is that even possible?
Well, that's a good question, Robbie, no? Siguro of the four prominent names that I mentioned, I think two of them actually have the power to walk their talk. So if you talk about Elon Musk, who's been doing some form of AI research as well across his companies, pwede niyang panindigan yung sinabi niya kasi signatory siya doon sa open letter. Steve Wozniak, being a co-founder of Apple, and Apple being one of the prominent companies that have been doing research and actually have applications on artificial intelligence, pwede rin nilang gawin yon. And I think given the example of these two, assuming that they are doing what they're actually asking other people to do, then maybe Microsoft and other similarly situated companies like Amazon and Google can actually follow suit. And hopefully, that will have a cascading effect. But I agree with you, Robbie, totally agree with you. It's easier said than done.
Kasi we're also thinking of not just companies. What about China? No, there are developments happening there. I remember there was ethical concerns also about facial recognition. And the reality is a lot of these startups just moved to China where there were no such restrictions.
Yeah. I-qualify ko lang, no restrictions, I guess, in terms of application. Pero in terms of regulation, China was actually one of the first to legislate AI, as far back as 2017. Nagpasa po sila ng batas to regulate AI po. But again, kung alam naman natin yung ginagawa nila, sabi nga nila, China is one of the most heavily surveilled and one of the most draconian states in terms of the use of technology to curtail people's rights. So again, regulation is one thing, application is another. But yes, to your point, it really begs the question: how effective really will that call be if, again, one of the facets of the advancement of human civilization is actually to push the envelope of every discovery that has been made. One discovery will be made on top of that because precisely human beings and scientists and researchers have been continually pushing the envelope all throughout our human existence.
Pero sir, it's one thing for humans to expect AI to follow prompts, give the instructions and wait for the results. But it's another if AI gets to the point where meron siyang kusa ang sabi mo nga kanina, yung
Self-aware.
Self-aware. Parang Skynet bigla at
Skynet,
Terminator
yeah,
naiisip ko eh. But what you mentioned a while ago, I think if I got it correctly, ChatGPT taught itself Bengali based on a few questions by another person, and then nagkusa siya. What does that tell us?
Okay, I have no definite answer to that question, Ed, but allow me to answer that question in this manner, no? I recently attended a program in Geneva, and it's basically a United Nations program where people are being gathered to be equipped to communicate scientific discoveries by way of diplomatic approaches, no? It's called science diplomacy, and our training, during our training, we were exposed to the concept of neurotech, no, research into brain enhancement technologies, and the overwhelming conclusion from that engagement was that the brain is still the least understood organ in the body of a human being. That being said, I think we are far off. We are a long way from any platform, any machine, any discovery approximating the complexity, you know, and the beauty of the design of how the brain works. So yes, ma-approximate, but for a machine to function exactly like the brain and therefore to become self-aware, siguro malayo pa tayo doon, Ed. And to me, that is a source of comfort. But again, it begs another question. For how long?
Yes, sir.
Diba?
And also,
for
sir,
how long will we be comforted by that thought?
Yes, sir. But also, sir, at the same time, your assurance is based on our comprehension of the human brain. But who's to say that AI will be limited by our comprehension of the human brain?
Well, you raised a good point, Ed, kasi there are a lot of AI applications now that are being used to improve their current version. So if you're talking about, say, AI application called Adam 1.0, si Adam is also being used to improve Adam to become Adam 1.5 and Adam 2.0. And there are many such applications happening now, no? In fact, just a commercial application, for example, of AI. AI is being used by companies specifically in 3 ways: to segment the customer base, 2, to improve the customer experience, and 3, to improve products based on AI's ingestion of data, both on customer use and customer experience. So imagine, you know, if it can be used like that in a commercial venture, imagine how that can be used to improve itself. So if it's able to improve itself, then by theory, diba? It's on its path to becoming self-aware down the line.
Nakakatakot. Sige, sir, let me just park that muna. We will go into a break, but I think we want to pursue that a little more. We'll go into a break. Cheese, we'll be right back.
Welcome back. Still with us, Francisco Ashley Asedillo of the Philippine Institute of Cybersecurity Professionals. And let's bring into the discussion Frankie Antolin, Executive Director for Talent Attraction and Development of the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us.
Ma'am Frankie, siguro umpisahan ko na kayo. Kumustahin lang namin. Although gusto ko sanang I wanted to continue yung...
Balikan natin yun.
Balikan muna natin.
Hindi, balikan natin mamaya. Sige.
Sige. Kasi medyo natatakot na si Ed dyan sa
Hindi
AI.
naman.
I want to know how the BPO industry is using AI at this point. Kasi sobrang yung napaka-rapid ng developments in AI eh.
Absolutely, and thanks for that question. So IT and business process definitely is talking about AI, especially in terms of how it's going to change the way
Yes.
businesses operate. And by very definition, it's business processes talaga that is at the heart of our industry. And so with the introduction of AI, Gen AI, into how we use our tools, how our people manage them, we know that there is going to be a big impact. And impact is going to be twofold. There are certain roles, functions that we know are going to be that need to be upgraded as a result of the change in the business processes. And so we're really seeing this as an opportunity for us to continue to upskill and reskill our existing workforce. And at the same time, start talking about the future functions, the future jobs that are going to be in the IT and BPM industry down the line. So one of the key things about the industry is we are labor heavy. There's really a
Yes,
lot of us
labor-intensive.
within the IT BPM industry that's part of the sector today. 1.57 direct employment. And so this is a really good conversation to be having in the early
Yeah.
stages.
But it's-
Although
But it's likely that you will be finding a lot of jobs redundant as a result of AI. Seeing the new developments now, no? That's also likely. In fact, that's the fear in the industry.
yes, absolutely. It is a fear across the industry, and I know that it's not unique to IT and DPM. Perhaps it is also yung knowledge of how we operate, where a lot of people think na ang IT BPM really are more of your basic entry-level types of functions like data entry, as an
Yes.
example,
Yes.
customer service, general inquiry, billing. Those are some of the functions that we know about the industry. Pero we do so much more than that. Ang daming emerging tech, ang daming higher level functions that we already currently do. Granted, na most of our workforce are really in the front office customer service space, but there is a huge portion that's already in what we call subsectors. So there's IT and software support and services, there's healthcare information management, there's animation and gaming, and then yung captives and shared services. Those are different higher level functions that can be found across our other subsectors that you can also find in contact center. So I
Frankie,
guess
maybe you can-
fear is probably rising from the fact that there are so many branches that not a lot of people probably are talking about.
Frankie, I mean, one, to move this conversation not just to the future, no, not just our fears, but also to the present tense, maybe even the past tense. Nangyari na, no? Nangyayari na. We're talking about moving up the value chain, our people, our industry moving up the value chain. But let's take it down to the level of an individual. Let's say somebody na pumasok, entry level, data entry, as you said, maybe transcriber, or maybe nasa voice sila, and so on. When we talk about upskilling them and moving them up the value chain, I mean, what kind of a conversation are you having with your talents, the human resource, and what kinds of trainings are they undergoing already right now, and what are the options above them that is in fact already opening up for them?
Yeah, so that's also one of the key focus areas that I particularly have within the talent attraction and development space. So when it comes to talent, the way that we would describe to an individual what the IT BPM industry is really like is that it's a combination of many things. So there are skills that are specific to a domain that they support. Once again, because we are IT and business process, ang daming different verticals clients that we support, and then that will require certain domain-specific skills, financial services, healthcare, data analysis. So those are just some of the areas. And then you also have to make sure that you are digitally skilled, you're able to work with your tools. It is a digitally enabled industry that we belong to. So those also come with certain core competencies that our talent need to be able to possess. And then we work collaboratively with global counterparts. So there are your soft skills, essential skills. So it's not really just one set of skills that they need to continue to harness. When they enter the industry, there is going to be that first step. But as they move along, and that's also one thing that we work very closely with our industry partners on, there is a career path to get you from your basic, maybe more routinary tasks, because they haven't quite disappeared yet. Once again, it's the advent of AI. Now we know that there is a path that Gen AI is on, and similarly, all industries are on that path of how can you leverage this technology so that we can start to automate some of these job functions and then focus on more of the critical thinking, decision making, problem solving types of functions where we really want to move our people.
Pero are we feeling it already? We of course from the very start na pumutok ang AI, notwithstanding that it's been with us for a long time, specifically pagputok ng ChatGPT, and I think it suddenly crystallized and dawned on people na ito na yung sinasabi, nangyayari na, oo, nako, paano tong BPO sector natin? Are we already feeling that in terms of investment, in terms of seats, in terms of potential clients that we're losing or are now, not necessarily becoming clients anymore? Are there indicators that it's already happening?
That is a very interesting and loaded question. If I may step back a little bit, one of the things that we do in IBPAP is we go through a periodic exercise we call a roadmap. So we have recently launched Roadmap to 2028, and that's really following the national priorities of the Philippines, so we can align our industry and then shape our initiatives according to the future that we want to forge for our sector. And so in Roadmap to 2028, we do talk about digital transformation, we talk about AI, we talk about automation. But interestingly, that was not the first time that we mentioned it. Even our previous roadmaps have also set the path for us in terms of digital transformation, the rise of AI, as well as automation. So this is not news. It's not a new matter or an area of opportunity for the IT BPM industry. We have been gearing for that, and that's why our focus namin is really talaga upskilling and reskilling our talent. And where and how do we upskill them is on those areas that I briefly talked about earlier: domain skills, digital skills, soft skills, and essential skills. They have to be multifaceted in order to keep up with whatever is happening in the global landscape. So perhaps in the Philippines, we don't necessarily have that kind of experience, but because we cater to global markets, that's why we can see this kind of trend, and we have been seeing it, and we are preparing for it from a talent development and talent attraction and career marketing perspective.
Well, ma'am, we do appreciate that you have been considering these issues and you've been talking about it and planning around it. But at the same time, do you think that we'll be able to keep pace with the growth of AI and the use of AI and the development of AI and the improvement of AI? Parang like for example, in the last 6 months, talagang sumirit siya eh. And I don't know if anybody expected that kind of growth.
I think now kasi we can put a name to the idea. In the past, it was really just that. And now everybody's talking about ChatGPT, whereas when you talk about AI automation, digital transformation, it still sounds a little idea.
Conceptual.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. It's like concept. But now we have a particular tool that a lot of us are using, and therefore it has just become real. Now, the talent landscape globally is actually experiencing a shortage. There is a need for talent, and they are looking for different shores where they can locate. So it's not necessarily just because there is AI. That's why we need to focus on talent development, upskilling and reskilling. But in general, there are a lot of opportunities that we will potentially lose as a Philippine IT BPM industry if we don't skill up. And then now the additional layer of AI being brought into the mix is giving us another challenge.
Mr. Asadillo, speaking of keeping pace, can you think of any country that's managed to develop, siguro initiate regulation for AI? One of the high-tech economies, for example, like Israel, it's very high-tech. They're very advanced in AI. Meron na ba silang regulation na ganon? Or the seeds of regulation?
I'll give you two sets of countries, no? One, you would probably expect, and it won't be a surprise, Europe in concert, no? The European Union, actually, to be more specific, have been vigorously working. Hopefully, their target is to pass a comprehensive AI legislation by the end of this year. But you would be surprised, no? Not just via legislation, but actual national policy driven by a cabinet ministry. And I'm talking about Chile, no? A country which you would not expect, but has a very robust AI policy environment. Now, globally, Ms. Ami, just last year alone, 127 countries passed some form of AI regulation or another. In our case, in the Philippines, in the current 19th Congress, there are 4 pending measures, none of which have become law yet. So I think that's a good, that's a good development because our legislators, our policymakers are well aware. We do have a national AI policy as being championed by DTI, and that's a good thing because DTI also is very well aware. And I'd like to cite these figures. Now, these are official figures from the Department of Trade and Industry. Around 11.8 million jobs are threatened by AI.
Yes.
And this belong to these 3 sectors. Agriculture, 6 million jobs. Retail, 3.4 million
Yeah.
jobs. And manufacturing, 2.4 million jobs. So that's a total of 11.8 million jobs. And these are low-level and routine-driven jobs which can easily be taken over by machines. Now, is this a doom scenario? Hindi naman. And that's a good thing, no? That the government, through this agency, is able to grab the bull by the horns, so to speak. Kasi at least na-anticipate na nila that this would really be a problem. So what are they seeing, no, as a trend? So, okay, mangyari na matatanggal itong mga trabahong ito, and this will be replaced by robots and AI. This will, of course, mean that for a certain period of time, maraming madidislocate tayo mga kababayan. But, however, itong mga developments na ito will also augur into what we call emergence of new tasks. And these new tasks will produce new products and which will require additional manpower, albeit with new skills. So, importante yung binanggit kanina ni Frankie, yung retooling and pagbibigay ng panibagong skill set sa mga kababayan natin. Importante po yun. Kasi we cannot escape that fact. We need to retool our people for the jobs of, hindi na nga, for the jobs of the future for the jobs of the immediate requirements, no? Kasi nandyan na po ang AI. Ang kagandahan naman po, ang good news is that there are currently more than 50 startups, technology startups in the Philippines whose core technology is AI. And their business model relies on the use and the development of AI. So we need to grow more of these companies, and hopefully we're able to bring to market what are these new and emerging technologies to produce new products.
We
Kasi
see
itong new technologies and these new products will require additional manpower. But yun nga, ang requirement nga lang is that kailangan magkaroon ng retooling and bagong skill set. There is a potential $1 trillion that can be generated in terms of ma-unlock na na benefit dito sa Southeast Asia, and $92 billion of that potentially can go to the Philippines. Again, yun nga lang with the requirement na we have to invest in our companies to embrace AI, and then we also have to invest in our manpower so that we can retool them and give them new skills for these new jobs and new products.
But to that point, I mean, we're seeing all the risks, the threats. We're also seeing the potentials, the promise, and the opportunities. Given all of that, what kind of conversation is taking place at which level in the entire country, not just in the private sector, but involving as well government? You mentioned cabinet level ministries in other countries taking the lead in having this very important conversation. I ask because I think about 3 weeks ago, and in fairness, that was 3 weeks ago, baka may nagbago na. But I remember we had a conversation with the ICT Secretary Ivan Uy, and he said na actually at the highest levels, ang conversation is purely in understanding the technology. There has not actually been a high-level conversation about the economy, the impact on the industries. I hope I'm not misrepresenting his words, but let me just throw that question to you now. What kind of conversations are we having with government, with all stakeholders involving the private sector and the public sector?
You want me to answer that first or si Frankie?
Kahit sino.
Okay, Frankie, would you like to take a stab at it?
Yes.
I'll chime in.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. So for IBPAP, we have recently convened what we are calling an AI council, and this is going to be made up of several leaders, not just the industry players, but also our allied sectors within the industry. So it's going to be a continuing conversation because we need to really monitor how this is affecting the business. It's not really a far look into the future. The conversation needs to be constant, and we have to be taking a look at the impact of AI, not just in terms of potential losses, but really how we can leverage it as an industry. And one of the things that also IBPAP does and continuously advocates for is policy shaping, and really ensuring that we can bring to the highest levels of government as well as academe and our industry players the impact of these emerging technologies have on our business, because we want to continue to be a key employment generator. And by the very nature of the industry, we are digitally enabled. We believe that we are in a very strong position to take more of that global pie that is yet being baked in. We don't really know all of the jobs that are going to exist as a result of this new technology. Well, I say new a little loosely there because it has been around for quite some time, and it's really key to make sure that behind the tech there are humans. We need to ensure that we have the right kind of talent to navigate and then shepherd how that technology is being used. And also at the other end of it, there are your customers. There are those who are users of the technology, and that is something that the IT-BPM process, because we deal in the business processes, we do have visibility on. So we want to make sure that we stay in front of it.
Well, we're talking about retooling. Do we have enough people to do that? Kasi even during the pandemic, the teachers were supposed to be retooled, pero lahat nahirapan eh. And considering that, the government is also moving into, President Marcos wants 90% or 95% digitalized e-governance na yung trust niya eh. But again, we go back to our conversation with Ivan Uy. Sabi niya, we don't have enough people for this kind of training eh. Kasi one of the problems is nawawala nga yung talent din natin. We're losing talent. So maybe Mr. Asedillo, you can tell us, do we have the capability for retooling to meet the need? No? Kasi napakaraming tao niya na kailangan nating i-upskill, i-retool.
Well, I'll tie up your question with the earlier question of Robbie Ami. I certainly have no reason to dispute the statement of the cabinet secretary in charge for ICT. And I also will tie that up with the massive push of our current president, President Marcos, for digitalization, a digitally driven economic development under his term. But again, if that is our goal, then AI and associated technologies must have to figure prominently into that discussion. Let me put it this way, Ami, if you talk about three segments of society, industry, academia, and policy making, almost always, and in particular case, itong AI, I would rank, sinong nauuna, sinong nahuhuli. In terms of AI, embracing AI, developing AI, researching into AI and understanding it, right now, the current trend is that it's industry. It's private companies who are driving the leading edge, not just in research, but also in the application of AI. And this is surprising, kasi usually, it's the universities or academia that are driving the cutting edge previously. Ngayon, nagbaliktad na. Nauuna na ang industriya. Humahabol pa lang po ang academia. In fact, those who are, there's now a trend for PhD granting institutions to encourage or to push their PhD graduates towards industry. Kasi nandun na po, nag-move na ang needle ng AI papunta sa industriya. And I would imagine, without fear again of being disputed, a distant third would be government. It's almost always that for any technological development, nahuhuli po ang regulasyon ang datang legislation. And I would imagine it is the same for AI. And the fact that we are already a year, no? Kaka-conclude lang ng first regular session ng 19th Congress without ever being able to pass a piece of legislation that bears on AI, or even an enabling provision in the national budget sa general appropriations for the development of AI via R&D through government, considering that the Philippines is one of the lowest in terms of R&D spending across Southeast Asia. Tingin ko po, and sabi ko nga, I don't have any reason to dispute yung sinabi po ng ating DICT Secretary. Now, papunta dun sa upskilling, no? Kung sabihin po natin na even the DICT has a problem attracting, hiring, and employing, hindi nga po AI ang pinag-uusapan natin. Cybersecurity na lang,
Yes.
which has now become a major item in the government's agenda. Inaamin po mismo ng DICT, they neither have the budget, nor the manpower, nor the capability for cybersecurity.
Yes.
And you have to remember, AI is one of those enablers in cybersecurity, both good and bad. And more troublingly, especially on the bad side. Kasi binanggit ko na po kanina, anong potential po ng AI to complicate the job of our cyber security defenders in defending enterprises and even our government from hackers. Precisely because the ranks of hackers can now grow even without the knowledge of coding or programming, precisely because AI chatbots can generate malware for them.
Ashley, Frankie, we've been talking about so many concepts. We've been talking about, the potentials, the applications, the risks, the benefits, employment, your future. We're talking about security. Also, let's try to bring it down to the level of household. Let's think of our country and our society as our household. How does AI look in your households now? I don't know if you have kids. Certainly we all have parents, but with everybody in your households, what do you tell them? Let's take ChatGPT, for example. What do you tell them about how to use it? Should they use it? What do you tell them about security? What do you tell them about their future as this technology enters your household?
See, Robbie, I'll dive in first and then I'll yield the floor in a bit to Frankie. Again, it's both good and bad. There are many households already that are enjoying the benefits of AI-enabled technologies. And nowhere is that more represented than by the appliances offered by Xiaomi. And cheap and affordable ones at that, no? Albeit being a Chinese company. Di ba? Meron na po tayong tagalinis ng sahig na Xiaomi, di ba? Na alam po niya, sinusukat po niya yung sahig at alam po niya pag bubunggo na po siya, titigil siya at pag mauubusan na po siya ng kuryente, babalik po siya doon sa charging station niya. That's AI. And that's already automating an otherwise routine household chore. That's one good application of it. For those who are old enough already to use AI-powered chatbots, and I'd like the way Ed and you, Robbie, explained how it is able to help you do your job. It allows you to come up with initial drafts of your journalistic pieces. It allows you to get over your writer's block, and again, that's another good use. You can, by extension, you can use that for any student or even ina ng tahanan na nagtuturo din po sa eskwelahan na pwede pong ma-automate yung kanyang paggawa ng lesson plan. However, let me again caution, and this is wearing my cybersecurity hat. If you propose to convert your household into a smart home, you have interconnected devices, AI-powered devices, you are also opening up your home to hacking. Smart TVs, smart appliances, smart refrigerator, all connected to your digital device like your cell phone or your laptops, pati yung ilaw mo, pati thermostat mo, all smart devices. Again, ito, Even your security system, no? Nakakonect lahat. It automates a lot of things. It makes your home manageable, safer. It allows you to save electricity, to save on groceries kasi hindi na masisira, monitored mo na. But again, like each technology, it has its downsides. And one of them really is security, not to mention the complexity that comes with integrating all of those appliances, Robbie. Yes, Frankie.
Thanks, Ashley. Definitely smart homes. That's really the way to go. We are very happy to have our voice assistant sometimes remind us of the things that we need to do. It's probably a lot more common than we think. Kasi in our daily lives, even our phones are assisting us, and we are automating a lot of these tasks that we would normally have to think about, redirecting our attention more on the critical thinking, problem-solving, decision-making activities. So that's really an example of how AI, how technology has changed our lives. Definitely, we encourage, one of the things that we do at IBPAP is we also go to different universities. We have career advocacies, we have industry talks. We want to keep them aware about not just the career paths really that's open up for them to in the industry, but also what the industry is all about. Once again, I go back to us being digitally enabled. We are in a position to embrace technology, and that is probably the first step to ensuring that we get a better handle in terms of how to live with this kind of technology. So encouraging them to embrace the use of, practice the use of, and be responsible in the use of AI, in the use of technology, is going to be our first step into opening up their minds and getting them a lot more familiar and comfortable with how the world has changed. So really in the households, it's very important not to, we can't deny naman, andyan na talaga siya. Nararamdaman na natin in our lives, in our chores, and also in the way that we manage our households. So definitely, if we want to take a look at technology, it is really an enabler. I like what you said, Ashley, for good or for bad, but it's the human behind it that we need to focus on in terms of how that human will use the technology, how that human will allow that technology to uplift his or her life and the lives of everybody around him or her.
If I may, can I squeeze in one more? I'd just like to zoom out again. Kanina kasi we were having a discussion about these personalities who've called on the companies of the world to put a stop muna, to temporarily put the brakes on AI development while we try to figure things out. I'd like to go back to that because we're also talking about, in the end, it all depends on the humans who control these machines. But is it possible at all that there will come a time that, since the genie is out of the box, even if you the humans try to put a stop to things, they can't? Is that possible? We were talking about the road to self-awareness and all that. I know it's still like Hollywood, but I suppose in the 1930s people were thinking about nuclear power as Hollywood as well.
If I may, and probably I'll hand off to you, Ashley. What's interesting, and this is something that we've been talking about in the talent space, EdTech, right? We now have AI-assisted tools that can actually do tutoring lessons to children. So that's something that is already available out in the market. And so when you take a look at humans being behind the technology and using the technology, one other area to probably consider is how AI-powered talent development, AI-powered education is going to change the human that is using it. So that's both exciting and scary, perhaps. Exciting because now we have at our hands a tool that can really enable upskilling and reskilling at scale and probably a lot faster. And that's what we've been trying to push for. We can't be thinking about traditional models of education and skilling anymore, and now maybe we don't have to because there are tools that we can take advantage of. But also at the same time, how is that going to impact the way that we are currently educating and developing our talent? And so if you are AI assisted, in developing your own critical thinking, decision making, and problem solving skills, that's also a consideration that we need to take into as we as we take a look at humans behind tech versus at the end of tech, there's a human that is using it.
Ed, let me preface my answer to your question with two philosophical models, no? One
Okay.
philosophical model is what we call the Pandora's box.
Yeah.
No? Na yung the advent of a new technology will augur into nothing but chaos. No? That's one philosophical model. The other philosophical model is what I call the Promethean gift. Diba? You remember legend, si Prometheus brought to mankind the gift of fire. But it also came with a cost, because Prometheus every day was punished by the gods only to be healed at night and then to resume that punishment throughout the day the following day. So in either of those philosophical models, merong cost. No? One is absolute chaos and tawag dito, conflict. The other one is both the good that comes with the new technology and the
And
price or the cost of
and
bringing forth
absolute suffering.
that technology. So ako, I lean on the side of the Promethean gift, no? And in this particular case, AI. Balik ako dun sa hinighlight mo na about the open letter, Ed, no? And I'd just like to, this is 10 pages, I'd like to just quickly read where I think there are actionable points in the open letter. Sinabi kasi dito, no, that we call on AI labs to immediately pause for at least 6 months the training of AI systems more powerful than GPT-4. So very specific. Ang benchmark nila, GPT-4. So kung if you're working on something that is more powerful than GPT-4, tigil na po kayo. It's not a blanket moratorium on AI. That's one. Second, sabi dito, yung mga hindi pwedeng i-enact quickly, governments should step in and institute a moratorium. Now, AI labs and independent experts should use this 6-month pause to jointly develop and implement a set of shared safety protocols for advanced AI design and development that are rigorously audited and overseen by independent outside experts. These protocols should ensure that systems adhering to them are safe beyond a reasonable doubt. This does not mean a pause on AI developments in general, merely stepping back from the dangerous race to the ever larger, unpredictable black box models with emergent capabilities. So, ibig sabihin, in general, sinasabi nila, tigil muna tayo doon sa mga AI na hindi natin alam ano yung kapabilidad at ano yung full range of capabilities. Kasi, di ba, oo nga naman, bakit mo na naman itutuloy-tuloy yung isang bagay na pwede mong ikasira, you know, which is now navigating a fine line from a Promethean gift with still its inherent dangers to a totally Pandora's box type of a scenario, Ed, no? So I'd like to frame it in that sense, where we are now in terms of where AI is headed to, Ed.
Okay. Ashley and Frankie will have to leave it there for now. In the meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always like
Ashley Asidillo is National President of the Philippine Institute of Cybersecurity Professionals, and Frankie Antolin is with the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines. And that is all we have for the Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
We hope what was discussed will keep the conversation going. I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Adlin Gao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.